Hey up guys, S-Man back at it again for a brand new Horizons review. Now, I'm just gonna get right into the video because this was a pretty good episode, not gonna lie. But yeah, hope you guys will subscribe first off, and then like the video. And leave a comment about your thoughts on the episode as well. Now, let's get right into that review. Alright, picking up from last week, Liko spots the Scarlet Lapras, and Terrapago starts calling out to it. Lapras doesn't really care, and calls for its crew to basically attack the Bolt Tacklers, which leads to a pretty cool scene where Murdoch and Molly go to defend the food that they used to bait out the thing with Chansey and Rockruff. But yeah, this also leads to Liko and Roy jumping into the fight. Whereas Wattrel just disappeared after like getting all that development. Hatena too. But like at least Hatena doesn't battle, so it kind of makes sense. But yeah, I wish we could have explored this concept a little more. I would have thought it was cool that if we see a whole throughout battle between the Pokemon of Lapras's crew and even the wild Pokemon on the Volt Tackler ship, because we got a whole episode where they had the Fight Club. It would have been cool to see them again, especially after Poltegeist was introduced and we have a new member to that ship's crew. But no, Diana jumps in and with Arcanine scares them off, along with Threed who jumps in to fight them. But yeah, they run off and Threed decides it's best for them to chase them down, where we get this sick scene from my boy Ludlow. I gotta say, Ludlow is the second MVP of this episode. The scene of him chasing down the Whale Lord and Lapras, like, was just sick. And then they were using, like, moves to, like, freaking throw him off course by like shooting whole beams of water at it. So guess what? Murdoch's Quagsire just controlled the ocean to like block every attack coming for their ship. And then Ludlow, the goat he is, just steers through that. Like his Quagsire is literally lifting waves and he's just driving through it. This guy's actually a tried and true fisherman and sailor. And I gotta say, I'm happy to see him actually do something. But yeah, this then gets stopped when Lapras impales the ship and then freezes it in place. But yeah, this is where the episode begins to slow down as Liko, Roy, Threed, and the rest of the crew have a discussion about Lapras, basically. They realize that Lapras and his crew just want food, and that fighting them won't really solve anything. I like that Threed basically puts all the pieces together, saying, oh, they wanted food, they're leaving behind food, and all this. And then Liko also puts this together and decides that the best course of action, instead of fighting, is to just befriend Lapras. This episode's main MVP is Liko. I said earlier that Ludlow was second MVP for his shipman skills, but Liko is actually the real MVP of this episode. This episode shows off Liko's goal really well, in my opinion. Liko decides that the best course of action is to befriend Lapras and show it that they mean no harm and just want to reunite it with Lucius's Pokemon. This is actually genius thinking and goes along with her goal of understanding Pokemon. We haven't really seen too much of her understanding Pokemon besides really Hatena since she's declared that goal. We get a few scenes here and there of her basically trying to understand Terrapagos and watching the Pokemon Fight Club and deciding to let them be. And that's really, I think, it, if I remember correctly, her goal of trying to just understand what these Pokemon's thoughts and feelings are. And I really like how they tied it into her other plot of trying to assemble the hero Pokemon. But yeah, basically, after this, Lapras decides to be all cool with the Volt Tappers because they gave her and his crew food. And that's when Liko sends out Arboliva and Moltres for the trio to reunite. This is a cool scene because we actually see Lucius himself and we get a design reveal and he looks just like Liko. He's definitely Liko's ancestor. But yeah, I like seeing Terrapagos and this trio. They're all reuniting and we're getting closer and closer to understanding the truth about Terrapagos. Literally the day after that the DLC comes out, we see Terrapagos' true form. And we get to learn more about it in next week's episode, which I'll discuss in a second. Basically, yeah. The episode ends with the whole Volt Tacklers just chilling out with these Pokemon in the wild and giving them more food. And Liko and the grandmother discuss Lapras and what she saw with Lucius's message through Terrapagos. I don't really know if this is like flashbacks of Lucius or legit him talking to the Pokemon Liko and Roy every time, but I think this is interesting that Terrapagos shows Lucius. But yeah, Ambipom then gives Lapras its Pokeball, and Liko summons it to it. Yeah, and Lapras' crew say goodbye, and they're all heading off. And that's when Rayquaza appears. Yep, out of nowhere, Rayquaza just appears. But yeah, overall, I really like this episode. At first, I was kind of bored with it, but then, like, looking back on it, it actually kind of grew on me. Thinking, like, standpoint of, oh yeah, Liko's goal is to do this, and we actually get a lot of plot progression with seeing Lucius and just the cool moments of Murdoch. I really like this episode. And it leads off on an interesting point, because next week, we're going to see Rayquaza again, and apparently Amphio is going to be battling it. Yeah, that's definitely interesting. Curious to see where that goes. And yeah, with the whole Terrapagos thing, I feel like a lot of the mystery behind that we have it now is going to be gone, and that's the only worry I have, because at this point we know little about Terrapagos, and I think that's really helped the anime, because this Pokemon hasn't even been in the games yet, and we've seen it just develop and the story behind it grow. The only like thing that I feel like keeps the anime different is Lucius, Liko, and that whole family is not involved with Terrapagos within the game. It's actually replaced with Heath's family, which I'm curious if we're gonna even get reference to, because it's weird. Like, because I'm only curious, how does that tie into anything? Because we need the Scarlet and Violet books to exist for stuff like Kuro and Sada to go into Area Zero and develop the Terra Orbs. So if Terrapagos was never there and Heath never found it, why were those developed, and what led to Tada and Soro even going there? If they even went there in the first place, maybe they didn't even go there in this universe. That's why we haven't heard about Arven or them themselves. Or we haven't seen any Paradox Pokemon besides that one ending where we see the Donphan forms. But yeah, overall, I'll give this episode an 8 out of 10. Really good Liko development, and it was just cool seeing the Lapras. And yeah, if you guys like this video, and subscribe for more content like this in the future, because Horizons is getting back on track after a long gap of just filler, and the DLC is coming out soon, so more mysteries will be undiscovered about Terrapagos will be discovered. S-Man, signing off.